Welcome back to episode 4 of Doc Talk. We're here with Dr. Laplaca in our beautiful podcast studio here with our new props, new artwork. How's it going today?
Good.
Pretty good?
Yeah.
Excited to talk about the evaluation process today?
So excited.
So excited.
So excited.
So previously in the past couple episodes, if you haven't listened to it, we've gone a lot more entrepreneurial based, talking about how Aries became what it is today, trials and tribulations that have gotten you to where you are today. But today we kind of want to talk about the evaluation process, which is kind of the beginning process of being an athlete and coming at training at Aries Elite. It all starts with our sports evaluation process. So before we even talk about the training and what that really looks like, we have to dive into the evaluation process. So can you kind of walk us through what an athlete experiences for their first evaluation when they come into our offices for Aries Elite Sports Vision?
Yeah, so if you don't mind, I'm going to take a step back to the actual creation of it, because I think that's an important piece that we need to address. Like it was designed in order to appeal to an athlete, but then also really look at the things that an athlete is doing while they're playing, not just visual clarity. So not just how clean they can see staring at one spot 10 feet, 20 feet away and doing that. That's not useful for an athlete, because they're doing so much more that with that in mind, that it needs to be way more. We need to take a look at way more stuff than anybody else was. That's how I designed it. And early on in the process in 2018, I really spent weeks and months thinking through what are the drills that I want to do, what are the pieces of the evaluation that I learned in school but never do, because I'm not a vision therapy guy, and I wanted to figure out which of those pieces is useful for what's happening for an athlete and which is not, and really be intentional about how do I construct the evaluation to get out of it what I want for an athlete. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is it is really focused on the athlete's visual system and not just a regular eye exam that you get when you go to your optometrist. And what was the question again?
What does it look like for an athlete? Because also talking about the process of how you've even created this isn't something that you bought or found or saw another sports optometrist complete and you said, oh, I like that, I want to start doing this. This is something that you created from scratch, essentially.
Right.
You molded it to your own process.
Yeah, so it really is an amalgamation of different pieces that serve different purposes. We have a Synaptech tablet and station, and that's a piece of it. So Synaptech is one of the big sports vision optometry companies, and they host a platform for evaluation and training. But you can buy the system and that be the whole way that you run your sports vision. I think it's way more than that, but some people do that and they have good success with it. That is the first 15 minutes of our evaluation, is taking a look at clarity, contrast, near far, how the eyes go near to far, and then a couple other different pieces that Synaptech has. Then I actually take a look at the refraction, the glasses piece. So if they need glasses, contacts, I'm still doing that stuff in the evaluation, and you're gonna get a pair of prescription for glasses, a prescription for contacts if you need that. But then we take a look at how the binocular system works. So how our eyes actually have strength to pull the eyes together, to go apart, how they move, how they're aligned, your ocular dominance, how your pupils react, how your muscles react, all of that stuff that's traditional optometry is still in this evaluation.
But that's not done at a standard optometry visit, right?
Right, exactly. A lot of the binocular vision testing is not done in most places unless you go to a specialist, a vision therapist, or a functional medicine guy. And then once we complete that stuff, which is another 15, 20 minutes, then we put you into a virtual reality headset and we go to NeuroTrainer, which is a virtual training platform that has an assessment, it has training programs, it has a bunch of other really cool things within their suite. And we just use the assessment portion of it, and we say, okay, these are the 4 things that we want to take a look at, and here are the numbers, and we use those numbers and we put those into our database. And then we take a look at the eye-hand coordination back on the tablet, and we're looking at like how fast you can hit all these purple dots as fast as possible, and then we have that against your scoring against our database population as well. And then we take a look again at simple reaction time and choice reaction time. All that to say, we could do just one reaction time, one piece of near far shift, and one piece of this other thing. I actually set it up so that I counterbalance. So if one score is low and one score is good, I say, okay, I find more value in this score. And that's going to be kind of how we dictate where the problems are and where the weaknesses and where the strengths are. So without that like optometry knowledge or background, like I wouldn't be able to parse some of that information out, and it would just be like trusting the machines and trusting the suites and the things that we've put together in this program.
Mm-hmm. What would you say makes your evaluation process unique compared to maybe other sports optometrists out there? Are they doing a similar evaluation process? Are they doing an evaluation? Are they just giving blanket, training programs? What does it look like when you come into our office compared to maybe trying to find someone else that does something similar?
The honest answer is I don't know. I genuinely don't know what another sports vision optometrist's full evaluation looks like. And that is because a lot of this stuff is still like reliant on the technology that's available. So like, even if you're a new sports vision optometrist, you're going to research what is the tech that's available to help me do this, or what is the sports vision equipment that's available. And then you're going to try and put together your own program or your own way of evaluating, right? Like I think that's just inherent to like our knowledge base, is to say, okay, well, these are the things that I want to look at. And I've never been through somebody else's, so I don't know what somebody else's really looks at. I just know what we do, and the reason that we're so different is we've done close to 2,000 evaluations on athletes. Like, I don't know if there's anybody else who's done that high of a population in terms of like the full breadth of things. Now there's maybe like guys who've been doing this for 30 years and they like, go there and do like an evaluation on teams, and they consider those like the same.
Right.
But I don't know if that's necessarily the case.
What are certain things that you're looking for in the evaluation process? Or is there a trend that sometimes you see? I remember when you did my evaluation, you had mentioned that our eyes now are focused a lot easier to focus on stuff that's close to us compared to years ago when we're not on our phone screens sitting at computers 24/7. Like, what are some things that you see within athletes that are maybe either common with certain sports or just things that you're on the lookout for?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a common thing that I'm looking for. I think the reason that the eval is so long and so intensive is because I want to parse out for that athlete specifically what are the deficits or things that they're struggling with. And I think all of that, the reason I wanted it to be so extensive was because I think that that's so valuable for it to be a 1v1. I do think that there are maybe some trends that are becoming apparent. Maybe when we take a look at the database, it'll tell us like, hey, this population is, they're having more problems when they're up close, their vision breaks more because as they're under stress, they're just not used to doing that. And there's a higher prevalence of what's called exotropia. I see a lot of that in practice, and I think it's mainly because like they're not having to do as much up close, or they had this problem when they were growing up and they didn't like doing schoolwork and they didn't like doing stuff in this range, and so their natural tendency was like avoid and go do sports, or avoid and go drive my cart where I'm comfortable looking far away. Like that might be a trend that we see later on, but I just don't know what the commonalities of all of those are, because it is really like one-on-one as much as possible.
So what's something that at least these athletes complete this 75-minute evaluation where you're looking through, what do they get after that to either compare their data? How is everything scored? What are they looking at post-evaluation, and how do you take that and then build a training program specific to them?
Yeah, so once we're done with the eval, we take a look at, so we run a report, and then we'll send them a analysis of everything that we looked at. And it really ranks them among their peers for a certain portion of it. So it's like, if you are a IndyCar driver and the professional and you drive Formula, like it's gonna rank you against other people who've done Synaptech at that level. And again, that's a good thing, but it's also kind of a bad thing, because we don't know what the patient population is for those specifically, right? So it could be 50 people, it could be 50,000 people. We just don't know. I mean, it's not 50,000, but like it could be a really, really small population. So I don't really trust those numbers quite as much. If we were to compare those numbers against the general population, their scores would be phenomenal, and I wouldn't be able to find out any difficulties or issues among them against their peers, which is what they're interested in. They're interested in knowing, like, how good am I compared to my counterparts? What do I need to do to get better? And so that's like an interesting way to parse out some of the information. The other population, so then the rest of the information that we look at, we compare it against our database. So they'll know on a bell curve exactly where they are comparatively to everybody else that we've evaluated. And so that's important, because it could be, from 10 years old up to 65 years old, and we can kind of get a good idea of where everybody's kind of at. And if they're at a deficit, we know that that's a true deficit, or we know that they're really low compared to other athletes who we've done all this evaluating on. And if they're really good, then we know that score is really good, because it is a pretty diverse population, and it's athlete specific, so it's not just like general population as well. So if you go to like the optometrist office and they say, they take a look at, or even like a vision therapy office, and they take a look at your near point convergence, which is like how close you can get with it being blurry, then breaking, and then recovering, that's going to be against every single person you see on the street. Like, what is the normal? And if you're fine there, then it's fine. But here, if you're low, then you're low against athletes, which is what we would want to compare you to.
Right. And so what are some surprises for either athletes or maybe parents of these athletes after they've completed an evaluation? And maybe once they've received that data, is it an overwhelming surprise in how detailed it is? Were they expecting something similar like your standard optometry, sitting down and looking at the letters and the line? Like what are some, not necessarily testimonials, but what are things that these athletes are saying after they've completed it?
I think the thing that I hear the most is, that was not what I expected. And I don't know what to do with that information, right? Like,
I don't, good thing or bad thing.
Right, like I don't know how to. I guess the biggest problem that we've had is like, how do we communicate the process of it without doing the process of it? And so like we've done some stuff on YouTube and other platforms where we're trying to like give them a peek at what the evaluation looks like, but until you come in and experience it, you can't understand what it is, because you have nothing to compare it to. And since you don't have anything to compare it to, you don't know like what technology exists. You don't know what the virtual reality experience is like, because a lot of people still have never done virtual reality. Like, they've never ever put on a headset and they're like, oh my God, I want one of those so bad, because it is cool. And so like, you don't know what you don't know, and it's hard for me to tell everybody without giving away certain like HIPAA and medical like compliance stuff. And so I think that's the biggest takeaway is like, that was not what I expected. Like, that was cool, like that was fun, and like you get the competitive juices flowing for
Right.
athletes. And if their friend had come in and they're like, well, what was their score?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how did they do? And that's what you really want from an athlete. You want them to be in their competitive element. You want them to be trying their hardest, and that's how the evaluation is set up. Is like to dig into that feeling for them.
And it gives them a little taste of what training will look like. It's
Yeah,
not identical, but it
yeah.
gives them a little bit of this edge of understanding of this is what this 45
I always
looks
tell
like.
them like the evaluation is the most boring part of what we'll do moving forward now.
So if this
Like,
excites you, then training.
if you had fun doing this, like training's it's gonna be awesome. Like you're gonna be bought in, because like it's a whole different animal. It's a whole different beast of like what training is versus the evaluation. And again, I want to make a real quick point. What we do in the evaluation, we won't do again. Like it's not like we're doing an evaluation and then concentrating specifically on the same things that we did in the evaluation to improve those scores.
Right.
We won't touch that again until we do a reevaluation in 3, 6, 9, a year. Like we won't touch those again, because that's very intentional. It's very like, this is your baseline and that's good. And now we're going to train you without doing any of that other stuff. And then we're going to come back to your baseline and show you the growth versus just doing the same thing over and over
And just
over
getting
and over
better
and over,
at doing
and just
the
getting
same
better at the same
exercises.
thing, right? Because I don't think that that's a way to A, prove that you're getting better, and then B, it's like that's really boring and it's lazy, and it's like that's not how I think that training should be done. Like we should be pushing them to do things differently.
And you mentioned the reevaluation process. So will you talk about what that looks like? Is it identical to the baseline? How often is it done? What are some commonalities that you see from an improvement and a growth? Is it after the 3-month mark where you start to see improvements from the baseline? Is it 6 months? Is it 12 months? What does that growth look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. The reevaluation is basically like a condensed version of the full evaluation. So I'll do all of the neurocognitive stuff. So like the Synaptech, we'll rerun that. We'll rerun the eye-hand coordination stuff, the simple choice reaction time, the virtual reality stuff, and then we'll also look at things that I think are important. So like your saccadic ability. So like we have a test called the DEM, which looks at how your eyes jump from point to point, and then also how you process information as you're reading. That will be another thing that we like redo, and then we'll redo some of the strength portions of things to see how much we've improved there. But like the refraction, we're not going to do again. Color vision, we're not going to do again. Like some of the things that are just like set things that we just have to look at, we're not going to do every single evaluation. So it probably takes like 45 minutes for a reevaluation versus the 75 to 90 for the full.
And then is there a trend that you see from an improvement standpoint, or is it kind of athlete dependent? Obviously frequency of training, what does that really look like?
Yeah, so it is consistency and effort dependent, right? Like if you're gonna put in the effort and you're gonna be consistent, we're going to give you results. There's no way, there's 100% success rate that if you do those things, if you do it in the way that we do it, you will see improvements. You will get faster, you will make better decisions, you will make better decisions faster, and you will be able to handle speed of game, speed of environment better as well. But if you're not consistent, if you come once every 3 weeks, like I'm not gonna be able to do anything for you. Like that's not the customer that we're looking for. That's not the client we're looking for. So if you're just like, you wanna half-ass it, find somewhere else. Like I'm like genuinely like that's not what we're after. Like we want somebody who's gonna come in once or twice a week consistently and like do the work and show up and like get after it, and just trust that we know what we're doing to push them into the right spots, because we've done this so much. Like I don't even know, I have no idea how many sessions I've run like in 7 years. Like it's in the thousands.
Yes.
So like it's like, to me it's very like easy. Like it's very easy. I could do it on repeat in the back. Like, and that's a really good thing. I think that's what you want from somebody who you're looking to train you. You want it to be on repeat for them. You want it to be so easy for them that like they could do it in their sleep. And I think like that's luckily the point that I'm at after the reps that I've put in, Because like if a piece of machinery breaks in the office, or the fit lights aren't functioning, or the synaptic isn't functioning, like I have 10,000 other drills that I can do that, we can substitute and we can put in super easily. When I was first doing it, like I would get nervous. I'd be like, oh God, what do I do? What's wrong with the fit lights? Oh my God. And it would take like 15 minutes, and then they'd be just sitting there and it'd be like super awkward. And I was like, oh my God. Like, and you just have to like put in the reps to like be like, this shit happens all the time. Like the lights fall off the walls. The internet connection goes out. Like, okay, cool. We got things we can do instead. But back to your question, we usually have our like 2 to 3 month aha moments, which is like somebody's coming in, they're working really hard, they're doing all the things that we ask of them, and then they'll come in and they'll say, I just want to tell you, like, this thing happened to me and I thought that was really cool, and I know that wouldn't have happened before I started training with you, or like I was able to do this one thing that I've been struggling with, I could do it now. Like that felt really cool. And then you got buy-in. Like then they're like, this is part of what I do now.
Right. So you get a mix of these client testimonials that are a mix of your actual data with the training, which we'll get into next episode, but the evaluation process of you have the baseline, and then you have them every 3 to 6, 9 months reevaluating. So we have that data that shows that they are improving in these specific areas, which aren't the areas that we're just constantly having them do every time they're coming in and training. But then you also have the client testimonials of them on the ice, them on track, them, on the court, that shows, or at least they are proud to come to you and say that they have these experiences where they're like, I know I would not have been able to do that if I hadn't come in for an evaluation or do the training process. Yeah,
and I think early on I didn't know that. Like I didn't, when I was building this, like I didn't know if this was gonna work. Genuinely, I was like, I'm gonna try to figure this stuff out, but I don't know if this is gonna be something. And then like the more that I heard those things, the more that I like went over the data, and the more that I was looking at all of the things of that, like it just gave me like the social and like data proof that like what we're doing is working. Like it was undeniable, and I think that gave me confidence, because I think early on I just didn't have confidence around it, and I always like questioned like, okay, well if I do this, then okay, then what if this, how do I do this? And like the way that we train and the way that we do all that stuff was like born out of my insecurity of like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm gonna try all these things, I'm gonna try all this different stuff, and hope that what I'm doing is like, it was like doing research. It was like testing out your hypothesis and saying, this is what I think will happen if I do this thing. And then you have to wait 3 months, 6 months to like see if it proved out, right? Like that's why initially I had to do the reevaluations, was like, okay, you've been training for 3 months, like how much did we improve? Like what did we improve on? And there's some things that like, okay, I'm not focusing on that, and then they go down in that, and I'm like, oh shoot, like we have to refocus on their multiple object tracking because they went from a 77 percentile down to a 43. What happened there? Okay, we were just focusing on the other things and we kind of neglected this piece, and so now we have to like change training a little bit and adjust, and like it also gives us like that that like check to say, okay, where are we at? What do we need to adjust in training to like make you the most complete athlete?
And the last question I wanted to ask with the evaluation process is regarding concussions. And so we've had a lot of concussion stories, whether it's honestly name any sport. We've probably dealt with athletes that have had some sort of concussions or lingering concussion symptoms. So can you talk about the importance of getting these athletes in, one, just for a standard evaluation? And we've kind of talked about why that's important in general for training, but can you talk about maybe an experience or an athlete that we have had that either came in for a standard evaluation and then throughout the training process they may have gotten a concussion, and what that reevaluation process looks like, and maybe a little bit of that rehab? We'll talk about it a little bit in the next episode, but I kind of wanted to touch on concussions, of the importance of it, because a lot of people don't think sports optometry or vision training has a ton of tie-in to concussion protocol and evaluation. So I kind of wanted you to touch on that.
It is one of the biggest parts of what we do and why we do it. I fear that a lot of these athletes are going to have problems later down the line because it wasn't something that like they looked at in their career, and like the whole CTE with the NFL and the amount of like hits that these guys are taking and the like subconcussive and just got your bell rung type of things, like that is such an old, antiquated way of thinking about it and not putting the player's safety first, which I think is the narrative that I would like to change, or at least make it be a part of, right? Because vision is so tied to concussion that so 50%, more than 50% of our brain every day is dedicated to our visual system. Like most people don't know that, but like over 50% of everything that your brain is doing is dedicated to your vision. That's huge. That's a huge amount, and the amount of things that can happen after you've had a concussion that directly affect your vision, whether it's glare to lights, whether it's like double vision, whether it's strain and stress that are causing you to feel uncomfortable, nausea, vomiting, like all of those things are tied to how our eyes take in the information and view the world. And then our vestibular system is connected to our visual system. So like when you get dizzy or have vertigo because of your concussion, that's all through your visual system tied to your vestibular system. And so like all of those things are affected when a concussion happens. And if we don't have the original, when you're healthy, here's what your evaluation looks like, data, then I don't know where to pull you back to from if you have a concussion, right? Like when that concussion happens, I don't know what the original data would tell me to where you're functioning now when we do a concussive event. We had an IndyCar driver who we've been working with for a few months now at this point, and he was in a wreck in practice in the Indy 500. Big day for him. Like that's a big weekend, big day, but like that's a huge event. And I think the thing that was really, really good was that I was able to go there, do a concussion evaluation on him, and tell him, hey, you're good. Like everything is good from a concussion standpoint. Like everything is good. Go race. And for me, it's like a safety thing, but for them, it's like a confidence thing for sure. Right? It's like I have confidence that everything's still working well.
And don't have to doubt what my eyes are actually telling me.
Exactly. And I think that is massive when you're going 238 miles an hour. Like even if you're like a football player and you're going over the middle and you're like unsure of where's the player, what's the play supposed to be, like that's important for you to have confidence that you understand what your quarterback just called out and that you're not going to get blindsided and rocked again and then you're like done. And so like I think the confidence piece is important for them, but like the baselining is important for us because then we can be proactive in making sure that they're either good to go, or if there is a problem, what do we got to pull you back to and then make you better at?
And we can get you back to where you were. And I think that's the stigma of concussions. I remember in high school we did the impact test, right? You're sitting at a computer and you're kind of getting your baseline for concussions. And remember all of my friends that played football, they would purposely have a super low baseline and purposely do it all wrong, just so if they did get a concussion and they had to retake the test,
they could fool it. Exactly.
Now it probably looked a little weird that their baseline was really bad, and the second time they did it, when they probably did have a concussion, was a better score.
Yep.
But there's this whole stigma of like, no, I don't want to miss my sport. I want to keep going. Even though I'm in pain, I want to keep playing. But the detriments that come from that, and the understanding is it's okay. It may take you a month for us to train you and get back to where your baseline originally was.
Right.
But trust me, it's better than having these lingering symptoms and prolonging probably permanent damage.
I would argue that knowing the information and then getting a reevaluation as soon as possible brings them back to play faster and healthier. Like I think that's the problem, is that if somebody has a concussion, right now the current standard protocol is just rest and relax, no activity,
no
blah blah blah, no
screens.
Just don't do stuff.
Yeah.
Versus having a really detailed knowledge of where they're functioning before, And then I know where to isolate. I know where to like look at exactly and say, okay, if we focus on these 4 things, we can have you back in a week and a half. And I'm doing like post-concussive checks every day until until things start getting better. So then we can like really be on top of their like comeback and then their training and really prevent a secondary concussion. Because the first one, that sucks, like that you're going to be out a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But the second one could put you out years.
Right.
Like we've had players come in who've had to retire from their sport at 24, 25 because they've had concussion and then a second concussion that just like they couldn't come back from.
Mm-hmm.
They tried everything. They went to all the other specialists. They went to blah 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 blah, and then as a last resort, they come to Vision, come to me, and then we're able to get them back. Like I think that's been the biggest thing is like we worked with multiple athletes who we've now brought back to like functioning lives and like are super happy. They're our biggest supporters. They're our biggest like shout it from the rooftop type of people because of the impact that we've had on just their lives, pulling them back from that concussion that like not just affects them in their sport, but affects them in their relationships, affects them in their like having a different job, right? Like their job is going to be way different than their sport. And so like if you go to be a financial analyst and the lights are really bright and you can't deal with that, or you have to read a whole bunch more information now and you're still not recovered from your concussion, like you feel like you're not comprehending stuff. You feel you're losing your ability at work, and that sucks. Like that really, really sucks. And there's no place for a lot of these guys to go, or they don't know where to go, or it's not like an option for them because it's like, well, now I got to go do all this research to figure out like where's the best spot to go for my concussion rehab. Well, this person says that they do it this way. This person says they do it this way. Here's how this other person does it, and then they're spending just thousands and thousands of dollars on all these other options, and they just don't know.
Well,
I think that
think
sucks.
Going back to the training aspect of, we do have this baseline and we're going to train them and help them recover rather than sit in a dark room and listen to an audiobook, right? People don't realize that your brain is a muscle. Just like recovering from an ACL tear or a broken ankle, you're going to go do PT. You're going to rest for a little bit, but you're going to go do PT and you're going to do exercises. You don't just rest a broken ankle and then just start running again and hopping on the field and putting your cleats on, right? So it's like, why are we treating concussion protocol like that when other parts of our bodies we don't?
Right. Yeah. You break your ankle, you go get an X-ray, you know what's wrong with it, and then you can tell when it's healed. But then you also have to like still do work to like make sure that the muscles around it are healed, to make sure that all the other things that like allow you your speed and agility are functioning well. But with vision and concussion, we just don't do that, and it's like, how do I change that? How do I help like change that narrative of, yeah, this sucks that it happened, but there's a better solution than faking an impact test.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, I understand these guys are competitors and I understand that they want to get back out in the field, but like, you're going to do this for 10, 12 years of your life, hopefully, if you're good at your sport. And then you're going to have to live the rest of your life with your family and your kids. And like, don't you want to be functioning really well for them, like later in life? Like, I have 2 kids. My daughter's 8, my son's 6. And like, not like being there for them, like that would devastate me. Like, I don't know, it breaks my heart when like you hear those stories of like Junior Seau and like all these guys dealing with depression and all of this stuff, and it's like, yeah, that's because of the concussions that they had. They like can't wrap their heads around what's happening to them, and they're like worried and scared, and like that sucks. Like that really sucks for them and their families. And I don't know, there's just a bunch of sad stories that like,
and there's more to life.
Like I want to change that.
I
want to change that view of it. Like, yeah, the money's got to be great. Like it's got to be good, but like we got to figure out a better way to help these guys. And I just want to be a part of that narrative, I think.